Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Tonight our topic is Liberian designers and the African fashion. With me is my co-host, Mrs. Danielle Knuckles Gusha, and we have our guest, Mr. Chris Collins, all the way from Monrovia, Liberia. Danielle, take it away from me.
Good evening, everyone. As Dennis said, my name is Danielle Knuckles Gishard, and I am the co-host here on Focus on Liberia, where we focus on all things Liberian. Today, we have with us Liberian designer Chris Collins, and so we'd like to say welcome, Mr. Collins, to our show.
Thank you very much.
And before we begin, I just want to remind everyone again to please do three things for us, and that is to like our Facebook organization page, which is Focus on Liberia. Second, please friend us here on this page, Focus on Liberia, which is our person page. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Focus on Liberia. So to begin today's interview, Mr. Collins, can you please introduce yourself and let our viewers know what is your connection to Liberia?
Hi, my name is Chris Collins. I'm a local fashion designer. I've been in the business for over 30 years. I have always done my business here in Liberia. I usually travel every now and then intermittently to programs abroad. I have been in the fashion business, and I have done a couple of shows in Liberia and abroad, and in Africa also.
Okay. So can you tell us when and how your passion for fashion began?
Okay, my passion for fashion. I grew up in a large home, and my mother is a seamstress. She was always sewing. I woke up, I got up and knew myself seeing a sewing machine at home and seeing my mother sitting and making clothes. And we would be there cutting up scraps and stuff like that. But my interest was piqued when I had the passion to always want to wear something nice, and knowing that there was a sewing machine available, I, from a very early age, started to play around with a machine, play around with scrap fabrics, and then eventually she taught me how to make shirts for myself. And once I got to learn how to make shirts for myself, my interest for sewing developed. And also I started to make clothes and projects for my siblings. I have a lot of sisters, and they wanted something made nicely too. So when my mother was very busy, I was there trying to help them get some things made, and that's how I started. I didn't actually study fashion. It's just a passion that I pursued. I went to school, I went to college, to the university, local university, Cotton University, and graduated with a degree in business management. But while I was in school, I was already honing my skills. I was in the university on Cotton, and I was making things for my friends because they would see me with maybe a nice shirt, and they would want to, hey, where did you get that shirt from? And I tell them, look, I made it. So no, you're joking. I say, yes, I do. You want one? I can make one for you. And I would go and make one and bring it. And that's how it started. Started making clothes with my friends. And yeah, I am, after a few years of working, decided to work for myself. And since then, I have not looked back. I've been working for myself since 1989.
Wow, that's awesome. So your training has been mostly informal, maybe, and like from your mom and people you knew.
My training has been very informal, but also based on the interest that I had in fashion. I sort of read up and trained myself. I taught myself how to make patterns. I cut patterns. I do it both metric, that is the European style patterns, and American using the English system. So there are two different methods of pattern making that I learned. So I usually make my patterns before I make my clothes. So if I have to make something, I usually will sketch it up. Then I will cut a pattern from paper. I will make all the mistakes on the paper because the cloth is expensive. So you don't want to make mistakes on fabrics that you have to go and rebuy. But paper you have readily available. You have newspapers, you have other types of paper sheets of paper that you can play around with, cut up a pattern and try it on a dress form or something like that, or use very cheap fabric to get it draped on the dress form after the pattern is cut. So basically, these are the methods that I use. I will usually come up with a concept from my mind, sketch it, and then I cut a pattern and play around with it on a dress form. And there we go, we have an outfit.
Amazing. Dennis, you wanted to come in?
I just want to welcome our viewers across the globe to focus on Liberia. Today we are discussing Liberian designers and the African fashion. So if you please go on Facebook, give your comments. We will have time to ask questions. Our guest is Mr. Chris Collins, who's currently in Liberia, a fashion designer. He's and as we delve into it a little more, you see that he has a wealth of knowledge, and also is well known in Liberia and across other parts of Africa. So Chris, once again, we say welcome to Focus on Liberia, and to our viewers, we say welcome as well.
Thank you very much.
So where do you draw your inspiration for your designs?
My inspiration for designs is found all around me. Every day I step out of my home, I see concepts for designs. I see concepts for coloration. As I look at fabrics, I kind of like envision it in my mind, what I could do with that fabric. Sometimes the fabric speaks to me figuratively. And sometimes I see a fabric and I'm like, I'm turned off. So the inspiration comes just from viewing, okay, what I see. Sometimes I visualize a particular fabric draped on someone in an outfit, or I look at a particular fabric and I see something in my mind and I basically sketch it up, and then I play around with it on the paper and come up with a concept. And that's how I get my inspiration, just from looking around and seeing, outfits on people.
So Chris, what is the difference between making an outfit or tailoring or dressmaking and designing? So if I'm a fashion designer, do I have to know how to sew, or what's the difference and how the two kind of intertwine?
Okay, let me see if I can break it down. Fashion designing is a creative concept. It comes from within your mind. It's like you envision a concept and then you bring that concept to life. So it's something that you're going to do from scratch. You're going to dream up the entire outfit, and then you try to see if you can sketch it or you can drip it. So it's something that you bring out from within. It's a concept that you bring alive. It's something that has not been done, or it's something that you've seen and you want to what you call innovate, or you want to restyle, or maybe you see 2 or 3 outfits and you in your mind's eye envision that, hey, I can do this, I can do that, and then you sketch it and you put it together. That's fashion designing. Fashion designing is conceptual. So you dream up the idea and you make it come alive through, the steps of thinking about it, sketching it, or dripping it on something or on someone. Tailoring is different. Tailoring is copying what is available or what styles that have already been created by certain designers. You are trained to look at it and copy it based on your tailoring skills, on your pattern making skills, or your cutting skills. You can look at it. Say, for example, a business suit. You can look at it because you've been trained to cut a business suit. You can look at a business suit that someone has designed, or a jacket that some designer has come up with, and you can cut it. With the dressmakers, you buy a pattern that has already been designed. Say, for example, you go into the supermarket, into the fashion section, there are patterns there by Vogue or McCall's, or some of the designers, they have patterns that for their outfits. Say, for example, you see Calvin Klein's jacket or trousers, or Bill Blass or business jacket is already designed. So you see it on the packet, and they have the pattern that is inside, and then you follow it. Some of the patterns are graded. When we say graded, that is, they are made with various sizes, attached to them, in grades. And so you cut up for maybe the person who you're going to make this outfit for. You're going to choose the pattern, the graded pattern that corresponds with their size. So you follow that pattern strictly, and then you make the outfit. There's no creativity involved. You're only copying. But a fashion designer dreams up the concept and does it from scratch. So anybody who can dream up a concept of an outfit or an attire that has not been done and goes from the conceptual stage into the final stage of that outfit coming alive and being tangible, that you can see, feel, touch, and wear, you are a fashion designer. Some fashion designers go to school to hone their skills. Some is a natural given talent. It's just like the gift of singing is innate. Some people just sing naturally. But some people go to school to learn how to sing. So that's it. You, as a fashion designer, you are gifted with the inner sight to create apparels that can be worn by people.
So you mentioned some other designers in your example, Calvin Klein, Bill Bass. Other than your mother, who are some other designers that you admire or who inspire you?
Well, when I started to So, and I started making things. I started to look at fashion magazines, and there were a lot of designers that inspired me. Some of them, like Gianni Versace. I had books on Gianni's fashion. I had a very elaborate, we will call it a fashion dictionary of clothing that was produced in the 80s and the 90s. Entire anthology of fashion clothing from the various fashion designers all around the world, including designers from Japan, like what is his name? The Japanese designer.
Mhm.
You have a famous Japanese designer. His name has just slipped my mind. And also French designers, British designers, American designers. People like Christian Lacroix. You have people like Chanel, Coco Chanel. You have people like Christian Dior. You have people like Oscar de la Renta, who was famous for designing clothing worn by Jackie Kennedy. He was very famous in designing a particular kind of hat that was called the pillbox hat that was worn by Jackie Kennedy. I follow up on the designs. Bill Blass, Dolce and Gabbana, the duo designers from France, and a lot of other local designers in Liberia. I particularly was inspired by the work of Abraham Pellon when I was in college. Abraham came home several times to do 1 or 2 fashion shows, and I followed him. We became friends. I visited him in his New York home. I did work for him. Every time I visited the United States, I would visit him. I would work along with him, and he would give me tips. Abraham actually went to school for fashion. He went to the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT, in New York City, and graduated from there. I also try to follow up on other African designers. I've met Diola Sego of Nigeria, and other designers from also Ghana. I've met designers from Ghana. I've met 1 or 2 other designers from Togo and from Sierra Leone. So I follow some of their work, especially now that you have the media platforms, social media platforms, where you can easily call up their names and see their designs on Google. So I follow up on those things, but I basically get my inspiration, from everyday work or walk of life, and also following the trend of fashion from fashion shows. Like on the internet, you have shows that showcase the various fashion weeks of the world: Paris Fashion Week, South Africa, New York, London, African Fashion Week. So we follow those fashion weeks and see what the designers are trending across the world. So one thing that I must say is that people think that the designers are the one responsible for moving the trend of fashion, but it's not so. It's the other way around. The designer is very observant. He follows the trend. Whatever starts to trend is what the designer will actually design, stuff following the trends. There are all other designers who are trailblazers. They do creative work, and then people tend to follow them. So they put up a collection, and there are people watching the collection, and then people start to trend with that particular designer, and if eventually that designer influences the trend of fashion for that particular period.
It's interesting you said that. But when I always think about fashion and designing, what comes to my mind is how do they know that they are coming up with this? Okay, how do I know that what I'm designing is not already available? People are not wearing it. How do you have to study all the fashion to see that you are the
become very observant? You as a designer, you become very observant. You watch the trend. Certain fashion comes up as a fad. That is, it just comes up and for a season, say maybe just a summer season, something pops out and then it's gone. Like for example, there is a particular designer in Ghana who came up with a trend or a fad. It was called 16. What he did was he mutilated the sleeveless t-shirts, and it became trendy for that particular period. And every young lady and guys were wearing mutilated t-shirts. It was called 16. And that was just a fashion fad, and it was trending at that time. And so it became a rave. But fashion designers who have the aptitude tend to design clothing that transcend, seasons, tend to design fashion that will go a long way, that will be fashionable, whether it's in season or off season. I tend to try to follow that particular or method of designing. Like for example, the shirt that I have on right now, if I were to wear this shirt 20 years from now, it will still be fashionable because it's not following any particular trend. It's just a unique shirt that is designed and worn and sketchy. Looking at the way the coloration and the utilization of lines on and lines. So you tend to design with a timeless platform, so that if your clothing is worn 20 years from now, it will still be fashionable. Let me give you an example. In the mid-90s, I designed a business suit for one of my clients called Mr. Milton Weeks. And so it was around 94, 95 when he was here in Liberia at the time. And then he traveled abroad. And years after that, say maybe about 12 years after that, I was in Lagos and I called upon him for a visit. And I went in and he told me, okay, come to see me after work. And I went to see him after work in the evening at his home. He greeted me and I went in. He had just come from work. And I got there. And he had on a suit. And so while we were sitting there, he said, hey, Chris, this is a coincidence. I said, what? He said, you remember this suit? So then I decided to pay attention to it. And I look at this suit. And I was like, oh my God, I remember making this suit for you. He said, yes, this is your work. This is your suit. And I wear this all the time. And it's trendy. It doesn't go out of fashion. Mm-hmm. So this is what I'm trying to say. When you design something, you design it for a timeless period.
Yeah.
Timeless fashion.
Timeless fashion, yes.
Mm-hmm. So we've seen pictures of some of your more recent fashion shows, and we know oftentimes when a designer will have a collection to premiere, there's some sort of story or theme behind the collection. Can you tell us what your story or theme was behind your most recent collection?
My most recent collection was in 2017 when I did the when I hosted the Runway Liberian Soiree fashion event here in Monrovia at Destiny Entertainment Center. My collection was centered around the timelessness of fashion. So I had on the platform fashion that was trending, that was timeless. I had fashion from several of my collections that I displayed, and also fashion that was quite new and modern. Unfortunately, I did not upload that particular photograph to you. But if you were to look at the collection and the lineup, you would have been able to observe that all of what I have produced easily blend with each other. So it becomes timeless. So if you wore an outfit that I had designed 10 years ago, and if you put it on today, it will still be trendy.
Wonderful. So do you have an upcoming collection? Like what's next?
Presently, I have been concentrating on what you call transferring the knowledge that I have gleaned over the years, teaching people. So basically, what I have done is I have taken on apprentices, and I'm training also young women. Over 30 young women I have trained in basic sewing skills, in making accessories, and in making country cloth. So that's basically what I'm doing right now.
Okay. That's awesome. And thanks for teaching. I think sometimes we're selfish in our talents and we don't like to share it and pass it down. But what we forget is that, you know, we're not always going to be here. And, you know, we don't want that talent to be lost when we're no longer here. So thanks for teaching the younger generation.
Yes, you're right. Well, I always believe that if we must if we must be able to pass on knowledge, we must be ready to make that sacrifice. Okay, there's an African proverb that say, "You sit on the old mat to create the new mat, or to plait the new mat." And so, what we do, we who have been in the business for long years, we take in people and we tutor them. Sometimes they are trained in-house, and sometimes we provide a training platform and do group training. And this is what I'm presently occupied with. Also in the midst of doing my business and doing my regular work for my clients.
Okay.
I also offer training opportunities to young women, especially who have gone through several local training programs, and I provide the platform for internship to hone their skills and to take them to the next level. So those who show high aptitude, usually I end up working with them.
So you mentioned that you still also tend to clients. So how can people purchase your designs, or how can they contact you if they wanted something made?
Yes, I have a design studio that I work from. on in Painesville, and I have my contact numbers. Usually people will go online on social media platforms and they will see my Facebook page and they will contact me through that. Sometimes I have also a page that I display some of my designs, and people can contact me from that particular page also. It's called Expression Liberia. There's a page that I maintain on social media on Facebook. And basically those are the two areas that people contact me from. And then also my email, people send me information, send me inquiries on my email. They email me and we communicate from there. And because it's easy to transfer photographs, people will send a photograph and say, what do you think about this? I want something and I want it to look like this. Can you design something in this trend? And then we go about, communicating, and then we come up with a concept. Most oftentimes they will come to my place and they'll bring something and I'll tell them, hey, look, I know in your mind's eye, you're seeing yourself like this, but in actuality, this is not your body type. So we can redo it like this and we can redesign it like that. And, people see it and say, oh, yeah. So you have to coax the client and use your professional skill to actually make them see themselves, as they really are. Instead of having a virtual image of themselves that they project, Yes. Sometimes you see a particular style and then you envision yourself wearing that dress. But it's actually virtual. It's not in actuality. You have to try to gradually bring them to reality and tell them, look, okay, it's nice and stuff like that. But you see, this person's body type is like this and your body type is like that. And so if we make this dress, the dress was designed to flatter this person's body type, but yours, you have a different central point of the body. And so we try to bring that up. And also there are certain points on your body that maybe you don't want to draw attention to. So you try to make it, hidden. So we as designers, we have that particular skill to help you highlight your high points on your body. And then what we do is we move attention away from the other points of your body that is not too flattering.
Yeah, talking about clients, I was asking, who are some of your clients, or the famous one? Because I know I'm not one.
Well, I maintain a small and a dedicated clientele. Also, I do work for some of the what you call political bigwigs. I one time maintained a clientele with a former president. I also did work for also the vice president, and I also maintained a present clientele with the former vice president's wife, Mrs. Boakai. I make her clothes all the time. When she wants to go to important occasions, she calls me in and I make clothes for her, design outfits for her. I also made a lot of things for the former vice president also. So he and his wife are my clients. The former president of Liberia was my client. Before she turned over, I made clothes for her. In fact, her very first inaugural outfit was designed and made by me. And interestingly, on that platform at the time of the inauguration, the Chief Justice who swore Mrs. Johnson into office, also his regalia was made by me. And the vice president and his wife on the platform also wore outfits that I had made. So my work was prominently featured during that particular inauguration.
Wow, what was the pressure like to have so many clients?
Well, the things were not all made at the same time. No. For example, the regalia that was worn by the Chief Justice was made when the interim government came in. He was selected to be the interim Chief Justice. I was contacted to make his Supreme Court regalia, the Beretta and his robe, and I made that. And so he was inducted into office in that particular outfit, and he sat on cases wearing that particular outfit, that particular regalia. And when the elections happened and Mrs. Johnson won, and he had to perform his duties, he came and he wore the regalia again to perform his duties. And incidentally, Mrs. Johnson had already, through her family, through her sister, had contacted me to make an outfit. There were several other people who were making outfits, but mine was selected, because she felt that it presented what she wanted to portray as an African leader. And so, yes, so mine was selected.
Wonderful. Can you tell us? I know there's a client confidentiality, but can you tell us, I guess, what her preferences were, the trends that she liked?
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
Or who?
Mrs. Johnson.
Oh, the trend of clothing that you saw her wear, the attire was initially or designed by me, because if you look at the first inaugural outfit, you see that all of her clothing followed that trend, or official clothing. You can see it, it follows that trend with the open sleeves, and the loose fitted top with the what you call African, the hand woven or bottom, the skirts or whatever. We try to promote our own indigenous fabrics. So she used herself to promote the country cloth of Liberia, our indigenous handmade fabric. And so that is that is the outfit. If you look at it, you see she has a kind of sash like that is thrown over her shoulder, and the wide open sleeves, and then you see the lacy top and the plain top and the handmade fabric that is down there as the skirt. So she continued to follow that trend, and most of the designers just continue to follow the trend because she felt very comfortable with it, with that style of clothing. And later on, coming towards the end of her career, she started to wear more jackets. And so if you were to see her in a country club jacket, probably it was one made by me.
That's wonderful. So basically your fashions are timeless and they will be in history forever. So amazing accomplishment.
Yes, interestingly, like what you say, timeless and historical. The outfit that was just shown that Mrs. Salif is wearing at her inauguration has now been displayed at the National Museum. I was quite surprised when someone told me, "Oh, I saw your outfit that you made for the president at the museum." I said, "Which museum?" He said, "Oh, it's at the National Museum." So I went there, and I went upstairs into the building, and I asked, I said, "Is there an outfit that Mrs. Salif wore that is here?" He said, "Yes. Oh, we have one outfit that Mrs. Salif wore, and we have it, her first inaugural outfit. we have it displayed here in the museum as a historical relic. So I said, oh, can I look at it? They took me in there. It's in a glass case with lights in there. And I look in there, I saw my label inside, and I smiled. I said, oh, this is true. It's displayed in the museum.
Quite an accomplishment, and I will recommend to the museum that they have your picture there as well to recognize you for your work.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Chris, we're talking about Liberian designers and the Liberian fashion. Is there a true Liberian fashion, or how does that compare with, say, Ivorian, Sierra Leonean, Nigeria, and the rest of the other African countries?
All right. Our fashion is what you call is pulled out of a melting pot of African and international fashion, because from our historical upbringing, you know that our settler founding fathers came from the United States. And so they came with their culture and their choice for clothing. So they follow the Western style clothing. All through the years, the presidents up to President Tubman wore westernized business suits. Mm-hmm. When President Talbot became president, he introduced a different trend of fashion that was more Africanized. And so you saw him wearing what you call the swearing suit. That is a casual jacket suit that is mostly worn by African political leaders. And so President Talbot decided to identify with his Africanism. And so it became trendy that we wear the African casual or political suit for all of his functions. Even though at some time he will wear a business suit, but not officially. President Talbot always wore that particular suit. And so it became trendy in the 70s up to 1980. And then President Dole reintroduced the business suit. And then everybody started to follow suit. And then the war years came. And then after the war years, Mr. Taylor came in and started and reintroduced another style of the African political suit with what you call Eastern Bloc influence. So Chairman Mao Zedong from China wore similar style jackets, casual jackets, and President Taylor, what you call, profiled himself wearing those particular kind of suits, and it became trendy, and then everybody started to follow suit. When Mrs. Salif came into office, he also set a particular trend of fashion, and you see people started to copy and follow suit. And then today, we have a new president, and he's wearing certain kinds of suits that have influences from the what you call the Muslim setting. What he's actually wearing is from the Middle Eastern influence suits, which are called the kaftan, and they have been dressed down. The kaftan has been respiced by the Nigerians. And so if you look at the shirt that I'm wearing right now, it carries similar trend of the that type of kaftan-like stuff. But I threw a twist into it, and I put a particular kind of African print fabric. If you look at this, the African print fabric and is concealing the opening of the caftan. So you see right here is a concealed, and here is the opening. So you can see the fly, which is a regular caftan, okay, but it's concealed. So you don't think that it's a caftan, but it's actually a caftan or style shirt, or what we would call in our local parlance the Vai shirt, because the Vai people wore a particular kind of tunic that had Middle Eastern or influences, which is the kaftan. So we say the Vai shirt. So we tend to say indigenoualize and what you call Liberianize the kaftan and call it the Vai shirt. So people will say, oh, the Vai shirt is Liberian. Oh, the Vai shirt, what do you think? Well, Liberian people have their own fashion too. What do you think about the Vai shirt? Yes, it's called the Vai shirt because the Vai people were predominantly Muslim and they wore the Middle Eastern kaftan and they copied it. They made it out of country cloth or shirts that they wore with the fly. Well, you see, some of them just had a slit, with an opening there that you pull over your head. That's the same kaftan. Okay, it may have a V slit or an open slit or a lap over fly with buttons shown or hidden or concealed like how I have done it. And so you say, oh, this is Vai shirt, but it's actually a kaftan. A kaftan top.
Oh, Chris, Vida Maria Wright said, Mr. Collins, I love your dress you made that was posted on Hester Baker Pearson magazine. You remember that?
Yes, that particular issue was called the Vai script issue. Vai script. We have not really celebrated that particular achievement, which is a historical a heirloom of Liberia. We have not celebrated it. The Vai script is one of two original writing scripts in West Africa. It was developed just around the time our settler fathers were coming to Liberia. The Vai script was developed around between 1820 and 1830. And it's just around the same time our founding fathers arrived on these shores. And it was a writing script that was invented by one prominent Vai man called Dualo. And Dualo said that he got this inspiration through a dream was given to him because he wanted a writing script for his people. How he came with that desire, he was a child and the European traders used to come and trade. And one time the captain took him into his cabin, and while he was sitting there, the captain scribbled on a piece of paper and gave it to someone to take to the first mate with instructions on. And the paper was taken and returned with the things that the captain wanted, and he was quite impressed. How can the paper talk? The paper was taken to the man, and the paper spoke to the man in his own little interpretation. He said, the paper is speaking. I want that for my people. And so he began to long for it, according to the story I heard. And he began to long for that particular invention to be given to his people. And he said he got it in his dream. And so today we have the Vai script. And the Vai script is a writing script that has numerical characters as well as other characters. Now, the characters are syllabic. That is, they represent intonations or sounds, not particular letters. but sounds. So they are or syllabic or figurines. So we put the sounds together based on the characters. Okay, and so we have these particular writing script that can be used to write all of our vernaculars, because all the vernaculars have the exact same kind of sounds. And you know, according to our vernacular history, we have 3 language groups in Liberia. Okay, one of them is the Nel, another one is the Kwa, and the other one is the Mendi. So those language groups, the vice script can be used to write and record their history. But because our founding fathers came and promoted Westernization, so all of these things were downplayed. So when I was given the platform to develop fashion for that magazine, I decided to bring into fore using my fashion, or using the fashion platform to bring to attention or call to attention our unique historical icon called the vice script. And so if you look at the outfit, there are inscriptions emblazoned on the outfit. And so some people saw it and thought it was Chinese. They said, oh, it looked like Chinese figurines. And I said, no, it's actually Liberian or Vai figures, inscriptions on that or jacket. And the jacket the lady is wearing is a blend of Western and Liberian made fabrics. It's the country cloth and the Western taffeta. So I was trying to show an amalgamation and a blend, a marriage of our traditional and Western culture, and also trying to bring into fore the prominence and the importance of our writing script, the vice script. And so if you look at that outfit represents an intermingling of cultures. And this is why this is what I wanted to, this is the statement that I was trying to make using that. So that particular platform was a powerful platform to send out the message.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And I also want to give credit to that magazine. That magazine was called Liberia, Travel and Life. And as Vita mentioned, that was Miss Pearson's magazine. And that was a beautiful editorial with the vice script. Hopefully we can share a picture of it before we go. And speaking of that intermingling of the cultures in the fashion, we see the emergence of Western fashion and African fashion, and an embrace of African fashion and culture. I think especially with the release of the movie Black Panther, here in the US especially, we saw a lot of African Americans going to the theaters in African-inspired clothing. So what do you think about, I guess, this particular time in fashion, and how designers are incorporating African prints and styles into their lines?
Okay, interestingly, the African print is trending right now. Most of the what you call, most of the entertainment icons, most of them are trending African print fabrics. Like, for example, Janet Jackson, Beyonce, and the rest of them, they are trending African print fashion. What we need to understand, okay, is that the African print was originally not designed by Africa. The African print was actually designed and promoted from Holland by Vlisco in 1839 when the Dutch were trading all over the world. They came up with, they came to Africa, they went to Indonesia in the near and far east, and they decided to make trade in fabrics. And what they did was were inspired by what was trending in those particular countries. So you have a print called Java, 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 Java prints, which is a predominantly Indonesian influenced. Then you have something called the batik. We all know about batik, where it's a stem, it's the wax stem dye process. And that is what Vlisco promoted. And then the rest of the other people started to follow trend and started to make fabrics for the African market, because they realized that when it came to Africa, they saw the rich and vibrant coloration in the handmade cloth that was worn by the African people. For example, to name a few, you have the Ghanaian cloth of antiquity called the kente. You have the Nigerian cloth of antiquity called ashoke. And then you have other fabrics, handmade fabrics from Mali. You have the other cloth of antiquity from Mali called bogolan or mud cloth, where they use different color mud to put designs on handmade or fabrics. And so today you have the prominence of the mud cloth, okay, which was basically used by the Malians for ceremonial purposes. Then you have also the hand woven or lined fabric from West Africa, this side of West Africa, where you have Guinea, Sierra Leone, and La Côte d'Ivoire, Liberia, where they wove cloth on the looms, okay, that we refer to as the country cloth now. Okay, that particular cloth was woven by the Mende-speaking people who hailed from Mali through Guinea into Liberia, okay, and this was a cloth that they made. It's handmade cloth. It's a ceremonial cloth. It's a cloth of prestige because it has so much work that is put into it. So it's very expensive to make. And this cloth, called the country cloth, is a cloth of the kings or the cloth of the chiefs. Also, it's a cloth of ceremony. It's a cloth given to the bride or the groom through in-marriage ceremonies. This is a cloth that is placed on people passing through the rites of passage, through the initiation program of the Sandy and Poro societies upon graduation. This is the cloth that is given and made and worn by these graduates. So it's a very ceremonial, high ceremonial cloth, and also it's also worn at burials. Okay, so it's a very important and significant fabric. It's worn by the chiefs. It's made, and it's just like the rest of West African handmade fabric. It's made by inspiration. Okay, it's not a cloth that just made. The artist must be inspired to come up with that particular mix. And if you look at the history of our Liberian country cloth, every line that you see on that cloth has a meaning. It's sending a message, but people do not know. Okay, there are certain lines that will be there, and it has a significance. Same thing with the Ghana Kente cloth. all of the patterns that you see there carries a message. It's a cloth that is speaking, okay? And so if you look at the cloth, the artist will tell you what the cloth means, okay? What is it saying? So he gets inspiration to create that particular cloth. So there's a lot of historical significance, you know, when you see patterns on the Ghana Kente, or you see patterns in the Ashoke, or you see patterns in our Liberian country cloth. We have not been taught about it, so we just see the cloth and we like the mix of colors. And now you see people are, you know, really mixing the coloration and trying to what you call put in what you call modern color trends on the country cloth to make it more appealing to the younger generation. For a long time, the young people knew that it was a ceremonial cloth, so in the chief's voice, so they didn't play around it. They just considered it, oh, cloth for the old folks. So I did a survey once, just around the time I was about to produce the vice script. I took pieces of the cloth and I went to various schools and universities, asked young people if they knew anything about this particular cloth. Do you know this? Oh, and Liberia country cloth, and the puppet cloth, then the chief cloth. Oh, yes. So I said, oh, why? So the only gown they can wear, they make African clothes with. I said, oh, so you think it can only be made into African outfits? He said, yeah. So I said, okay, but do you know that it can also be made into very modern outfits? He said, I only know. So I said, okay, I'm producing fashion for a particular magazine. And when the magazine comes out, I will show you what can be done with that. And so the vice script fashion.
That's beautiful. Dennis, you wanted to come in?
No, just to let our audience know, you are watching Focus on Liberia. We are discussing Liberian designers and African fashion. So you were in ECOWAS Fashion Week, right?
Yes, I was in Nigeria and I went to participate in the ECOWAS Fashion Week.
Tell us about your experience, if you don't mind.
I was invited by the franchise owner of ECOWAS Fashion Week, Madam Joanne Okorodu. I got to know her through our fashion ambassador to the United States called Mrs. Jonda Morris Kennedy. And at the time, I had gone to the United States to participate in a fashion event sponsored or organized by Jonda. And also she introduced me to Madam Okorodu. So when I was coming home in 2013, I went through Nigeria to participate in the ECOWAS Fashion Week. And then after Lagos, Nigeria, I came to Liberia. And then I participated also in the Monrovia Fashion Week of that year. So I was busy on 2 continents.
It's wonderful. So Chris, you received $22,000 from the African Development Bank to help boost the Liberian fashion industry. Can you tell us, I guess, the process it took for you to receive that money and what's happened since?
Well, the money was a grant given to help to strengthen or empower women who are victims of our tragedy called the Ebola. And the EDB wanted to use what you call local artists to help to give skills to empower women. And so my entity was selected through a process to provide training. And so we've trained over 45 young women in Havel and also in Monrovia also. We use our place as a training platform. And so we've been training in tailoring accessories designs, and the country club. I'm about to start another phase of training in Monrovia in January. I'm planning for that. And in this December, we'll start to open up application and start to receive applications and screening so that by January, we'll start the program right after the holidays. We'll start another training circle in Monrovia this time because the two training circles were done in Havel. And this time now we're bringing the training circle to Monrovia to start it. We'll be training in tailoring, country cloth, making, and also will be training in accessories designs. That is making of hats, turbans, bags, necklaces, covering of slippers, shoes, and bags. These are accessories, belts, and stuff like that. We train people to make Africanized barrettes that children can wear to decorate their hair. And so these are the things that will be training young people in disadvantaged under difficult circumstances. We'll be training, opening our doors to training these people.
Chris, anytime last week, focus on Liberia, we had Liberians making a difference. And now we have this, we're talking to you. Most of these things are the people like you in Liberia currently, what is trending most of the time is politics. So people that are in politics, they get all the attention. Shows that center around politics get all the views and the rest of it. You now not in doing this, what are some of the challenges that you kind of face? You may not be popular as some politicians, or you may not have the resources.
Well, let me say this. Politics in Liberia is very strange and overbearing. We tend to focus our whole lives on the political movements and the political machinations of this country, and is actually not promoting what you call the growth and development of and empowering the ordinary Liberian. Because you see, we all know that man is a political animal, but he's also a social animal or a social being. We say, okay, we say drop the animal stuff. Okay, it's a social being. And we interact through culture, through our music, through our food, through our songs, our what you call prose, our writings, our dances. This is what moves societies, not politics. People are moved by how they interact with each other, okay? Passing down of the culture from the old to the young, you know? And this is what perpetuates societies. In Europe and what we call the developed world, if you look at how the societies are moved, the societies are not moved by politics. The societies are moved by what they do as a people through the arts and culture, through writings, okay? And we have overlooked that in Liberia, or we have downplayed it to the point where it's becoming detrimental to our society. Why? Because we are not perpetuating our culture through these particular things. Okay, now, for example, I'm trying to keep the interest of the country club, even though it's very labor intensive, but it's still a very unique way of making cloth, and it has a history and it has a message. Right now, we have been flooded, the market has been flooded by all of these cheap print fabrics and knockoffs from China, okay? And because it's trending, so you see everybody is wearing it. and the coloration, and it's catchy, it's vibrant, stuff. But we need to sit down and wonder what's happening to our own artists. There are people who are doing hand or made fabrics, hand dyed fabrics. What are we doing as a people to promote our own culture, our own creativity? What are we doing? Right now, we have all of these platforms, social media platforms, and the rest of the different kinds of online media platforms. And we can use those platforms to promote our culture and lifestyle. For example, we now see that Liberian music is catching on. I see that there is a group of Liberians in the diaspora making music. At the same time, there is another group of Liberians locally making music. I see that in the United States, there is a Liberian Music Award, but most of the music that they're promoting are music that are made by musicians abroad. There is no big Liberian music or award platform here in Liberia to promote the Liberian music. Now, those who have organized the platform, African Girls Rock, Albert, I take my hat off to him. He's done marvelously well. It's something that Liberians in the diaspora is a platform, and it's an event that Liberians in the diaspora can look forward to attending. And once a year, you can plan for it, wear your fabulous clothes. People plan for it 1 year ahead. They save up, they buy fabulous clothes, they go on to the what you call the catwalk, and they rock their outfits. But that should be a platform to show Liberian designs, both at home and abroad. Are they reaching out? Are they reaching back home to order clothing from Liberia? Are they reaching back home to actually or use the platform to promote local content, local Liberian musicians in the broader market abroad? That platform should be used to promote Liberian music, Liberian lifestyle and culture, including the food, the clothing, the music, the folklore, and all of that. That is a wonderful platform to do that. That is a wonderful platform to expose Liberia to the world. But we need to think, and we need to use it on a larger scale, okay, and incorporate a show.
There's a question
in Liberia, that Liberians can come home and show off what they're showing off in the United States, come home and do it, so that the younger people in Liberia can be inspired by their brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora, who can come home every year, okay, and come to this particular program and come and promote Liberian lifestyle and culture and Liberian music here at home. That will serve as an inspiration for the local talent to be developed. That is how I see it.
There's a question for you here, Chris, from Banando. So how can we maintain the country club's authenticity?
To maintain the country club authenticity, we need to appreciate it. Each Liberian need to appreciate and have it and buy it. Support the local producers. There are places where you can buy country club from. I'm trying to see if I can work with, there are certain unions, there are several unions who produce country club, and also I'm teaching the young people how to make the country club and produce it. We have a small stock that I usually sell and display, and people come to my place and they buy it and they make outfits. Liberians need to appreciate their own. For a long time, our buyer behavior has always been foreign. We buy foreign things. We want to wear Versace, we want to wear Armani, we want to wear or DKNY, Bill Blass, Tom Ford. When's the last time somebody said they want to wear Abraham Pelham, a Liberian designer? Or when was the last time somebody said, oh, I'm wearing Chris Collins at this show? Or when was the last time somebody said, oh, I'm going to wear Koto Momolu? Why are we not celebrating our artists? If we want to keep our cloth of antiquity continuing to be of significance, we must support it by buying it. That is my message to Liberians at home and in the diaspora. Embrace your culture. Maybe you might not find an artist or a seamstress or a tailor to really come over contemporary style. Find a designer. That designer can create the outfit, that outfit that you want to wear. That designer can create it. They create that look. I recently did an evening gown for out of country club and made jewelry, necklaces, bracelets, and what have you, out of the country club for the just gone Miss Liberia. And the girl who wore my ensemble and outfits, she was the first runner-up to the present Miss Liberia. If you go to that particular show and you look there, you see that the first runner-up is in an evening gown made out of country cloth. That is my handiwork. And the necklaces, the earrings, and the bracelets, and all that she is wearing is made out of country cloth. That is my creativity. I have the picture here. I don't know how to upload it. Please, I'm not so computer savvy. So yeah. But if I knew, I would send the picture to you so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. It's a very beautiful outfit.
Right. And that was my next question is, how popular are these things that people can see? For instance, and how can more and more people know about what you do, your production, not just you, but other Liberian designers? One of the steps that we at Focus on Liberia taking is to have this show so that other people can see what you do. What other avenues you to make this popular?
Yes, you see, designers, especially designers, are creative people. Okay, they are artists. We need people who are savvy in marketing to put us on their platform, like what you're doing now. You are promoting Liberia, so you have me on your platform. Okay, we need more platforms like these to expose our arts and culture. Our young people do not know the historical significance of things Liberian. Our young people have not been taught the real history of Liberia and what impact Liberia has made in Africa and in the world. When you start to tell them, they will like think that it's a made-up story that you are telling. They think that it's a made-up story that you're telling, but it's not a made-up story.
So now you can see.
Incidentally, the vice script issue of Liberia Travel and Life was the all-time best-selling issue of this magazine, to the point where these magazines were coveted by people. If they went somewhere and saw this particular issue, it would take it away. I have lost every copy of this magazine, and Hester does not even have one copy of this magazine left. This particular issue, all-time best, because of the fashion that it promotes. And also in there, there is a timeliness of generations that also has been portrayed. So you have mother and daughter generations also portrayed in that magazine. The magazine is very rich, okay, in Liberian culture, okay, and so it's a highly coveted magazine, and everybody want to grab it and get a piece of this magazine. Yes, this is the vice grip issue.
Dennis, you're on mute.
That's very impressive. As we are going to, we're going to be winding down shortly. We still want to say thanks to those who are tuning in. If you just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing Liberian designers and African fashion. Our guest tonight is Mr. Chris Collins, a Liberian designer, someone who can hear the cloth speak to him. That's very impressive. And so one way you can do it too is if you are watching us, as Mr. Collins is stressing, promote Liberian culture, promote Liberian design, Liberian artists. All these things will help to, if you can market what they are doing, if you can put them on your platform, whatever thing you can do, that will be highly appreciated. So, Mr. Collins, just share your hope for the future and your final thoughts.
I'm very optimistic about the future of Liberia. And the reason why I'm optimistic is because we have a young and exuberant population. And that population is one that is restless. We always are out to try things. So what we need to do is to always put positive things before them, because they are open to trying anything. So if you put positive things before them, definitely they will groom themselves into the positive things. If you put negative things before them, definitely they will groom themselves to negative things. I am liking it to rain that falls on the ground. And when you plant the seed and you water the seed, the water also brings up the weed, because the weed also grows in the ground. And when you put water there, it definitely will bring out the weeds, as well as bring out the flowers. So which one do you want when you put the water? You want the weeds or you want flowers? The choice is yours.
That is profound. You know, one thing we try to do here also as Focus on Liberia is with everything happening in Liberia, there are still some bright spots. And one of the bright spots is you, Mr. Collins. So we do our utmost best to zoom in on those bright spots so that our young people, the generation behind us, can see people that they can emulate. They can see good examples in our communities. They can see something else to aspire for, some career choice that they can make besides the usual, you know, even though politics is good, but besides the usual talking politicians. We want people, our children, great-grandchildren, to look at you or look at someone who is an artist or musician and say, yes, when I grow up, I want to be like that. I want to make a difference in my country, in my culture, because I've seen someone like you do it. Danielle?
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Collins, for being here, being our guest. Um, I think this conversation got a lot deeper than I thought it would. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge of the country cloth and the history of the fabrics and the history of the vice script. This is what we strive to do here on Focus on Liberia, is to really shine a light on Liberian culture and all things Liberia. So thank you for your wealth of knowledge and for sharing it. And I want to tell you thank you again for sharing your talent, your artistry with the young people, so that way your gift won't go with you. So once again, just thank you.
Thank you very much for having me on this platform. I am really elated and excited that I was given an opportunity to talk about fashion on this platform. I would like to also say that our Liberian fashion tapestry is very vibrant and very positive. And the reason is that Liberia stands as a melting pot of cultures, a melting pot of people. And so we stand at an intersecting point, and we tend to pull all of the cultures, Western, African, and what have you, and amalgamate that within our melting pot here. And that can, what you call, boil up and create very unique experiences. A lot of people who come to these shores realize how open and warm our people are. This is a positive trait of a people. We need, as Liberians, to take advantage of our openness and use it to our advantage, okay, to promote our own selves. I am planning to launch a platform that will promote arts, culture, and literature of Liberia. That would become an annual event that will also eventually include our neighboring countries and our West African brothers, so that Liberia would be a destination point at a certain time of the year where people can come and experience the vibrancy of the melting pot of cultures. This is something that we need to do to promote ourselves. We need to come together and create this platform to promote our lifestyle and culture, and also to include our West African brothers. First of all, our Manu River partners, and later on, our ECOWAS partners and the rest of the world. We need this event. We need to do it annually. A festival of arts, culture, and lifestyle.
And Focus on Liberia would definitely want to become part of that.
Oh,
Next week.
I appreciate and I thank you for your interest. We will talk about that more as we continue to interact. Thank you again for affording me the opportunity to speak on your platform. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure having you. Next week, we want to continue in this same line. We're going to be bringing on some artists, graphic designers, and people of that sort who will also promote the rich Liberian culture. Until next time, this is Focus on Liberia. I want to thank all those who are watching. I want to thank those who are interacting with us on Facebook. Thank you so much for the support you continue to give us at Focus on Liberia. We try to do our best to promote, to educate, and to elevate all things Liberia, and we depend on all of you to help us so that at the end of the day, we can make Liberia that glorious land of liberty that our forefathers and all of us anticipated. So from all of us here at Focus on Liberia, my co-host, Danielle, also our guest relations manager, Stephanie Setro, we say good night and God bless you. That's our flute.